What's up, Amazon sellers? If you are thinking about getting started on Amazon wholesale in the UK, then watch this video because I am here with none other than Emma-Louise Hamilton in her warehouse to learn about her journey and 3 top tips about getting started on wholesale in Amazon UK. Stay tuned. Okay, so today I'm here in Emma-Louise Hamilton's warehouse. I know, #excited. And obviously we're going to be talking about getting started on wholesale in the UK. She's going to share with me a bit about her journey and also some 3 top tips that we want to consider when we think about doing this. Emma, thank you so much for obviously having me here in your warehouse. So I know you're super busy, but if anyone doesn't know who you are, can you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about who you are and what you're doing?
Yeah, definitely. So I'm Emma-Louise Hamilton. I'm an Amazon FBA seller. In our warehouse, we do wholesale, we do arbitrage as well. So we do both methods. And essentially we buy stock, sell it on Amazon and make a profit.
Fantastic. So you said there you're doing wholesale, you're doing OA, and obviously I know you do a bit on the social media side as well. We'll talk about that later if anyone's interested. So quick question for you, how long have you been selling on Amazon?
So I've been selling on Amazon for about 3 years or so. That's when we initially got started. Yeah, about 3 years or so.
Fantastic. And did you start wholesale or did you start OA?
Yeah, so initially when we started, I started with retail arbitrage. So I was going into stores, buying stock and selling it on Amazon. And it was super exciting at the time. Just learnt about it. I was finding it exciting going into shops, buying those clearance products, reduced items, and then selling it onto Amazon. So it was a really good way for me to get started, especially with a low budget at the time.
Fantastic. So retail arbitrage, and obviously you're not doing retail arbitrage anymore, are you?
We do a small amount of retail arbitrage, but it's not me personally going out to the shops. It's more replenishables that we found that give us a good margin, and we still do buy those now and then, but it's not like finding new products. It's just those existing products that sell super well and you can't buy them online.
So give me an idea, percentage-wise, retail arbitrage, online arbitrage, wholesale, break it down, what percentage of revenue that you're talking about here?
Yeah, in terms of like how much we're sort of selling, I'd say 5% is from the retail arbitrage, not that much. Online arbitrage, I'd say about 40%. Okay. I'd say about 55% wholesale.
Fantastic. Okay, cool. So the majority wholesale. Now, you've been doing retail arbitrage for a bit. When did the online arbitrage start? Tell me about that.
Yeah, so online arbitrage really started, if I'm honest, when I was thinking I don't really have the energy to keep going to stores, finding that stock, bringing it back and prepping it. So I really had to think to myself, is there a way that I can get this business running with less energy from myself? If you've got lots of energy, then you might be happy doing that. But for me, I could see it wasn't really a sustainable way of going forward and building the business. Okay,
so retail arbitrage, how long did you do that before you started OA?
Oh, I'd say a good 7-8 months or so.
Okay, so quite some time.
Yeah, it was quite some time. To be honest, initially, I wasn't even interested in online arbitrage. I just really enjoyed getting up, going to the shops, scanning things, and that's where I was having fun. That's what I was having fun doing. Until, like I say, I started to get a bit tired and think, is there any other way around this?
I think it was about 6 to 8 months, you said, retail arbitrage, moved into OA, and then how long was it until you started wholesale? How long have you been doing that now?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I'd say we sort of really focused on wholesale this year in 2021. So I'd sort of say, the beginning of this year, we essentially went to a wholesale fair the year before that, and I dipped my toes into it. I could see it was a sustainable business model, but I didn't really go full force with it until 2021, so this actual year.
Okay, fine. So you've been dipping your toes, but this year's been the full year, and we're now in December, so it's pretty much a full year of wholesale going into that.
Yeah.
Question for you, hey, I do online arbitrage and I'm interested in going into wholesale.
Yeah.
Why did you start wholesale? What was the reason behind it?
I think I really started wholesale just because, one, we had more capital to invest in products. When we started getting the Amazon loans, I sort of thought, is there a way to spend this quicker with less admin work from my part? Because obviously arbitrage is very good, especially online arbitrage. But what I was finding is so many invoices, so much staff needed. So I thought, what's a way of doing this with less staff, less time? And it was simply by getting, 100, 200, 300 units from one source direct. So I'd say for us, it was more about capital. We realised we had the capital now to start going into wholesale, and we just took that opportunity and went with it.
My God, fantastic. Hey, I really understand because I've got so many VAs, it's like I can't even count them. But even just the collecting invoices is such a pain with the OA side. So getting started in wholesale, tell me about that journey. You said obviously you've been doing it now for a full year, but tell me about how it started, that transition, and what did you go through? Tell me that story.
Yeah, I'd say it initially started like probably a year and a half ago. We went to a wholesale fair. It's right on my doorstep, the Birmingham Spring Fair. So I went there, met the wholesalers, started talking to them, got their catalogue of exhibitors in there. And literally when I got home, I started contacting them, getting their wholesale lists, and then seeing if the products were suitable for us. Now, as an Amazon seller, you will face some obstacles. Some wholesalers won't want to sell to you. And personally for me, I just accepted that and moved on to the ones who were willing to sell to me. You can maybe try and convince them that you won't drop the prices, this and that, but personally I didn't really have time for that. I just moved on, started getting those wholesale lists and started finding those products that we could buy and sell. Okay,
interesting. When you first started, and this is something that I'm really interested in, is, you said you went to the, we're in Birmingham right now, the NEC, is that right?
Yeah, so we went to the Birmingham Spring Fair.
Oh, okay, fine, sorry. So the Spring Fair, and you got the list and you started contacting wholesalers. How many wholesalers would you contact in, let's say for example, a week? You have a number, like a rough guess, if you remember?
To be fair, thinking back, I probably, went through the exhibitors in a week. I was just staying up all night doing it, just going full force with it. So I didn't really break it down to say X amount per day. My aim was just to get as many of those lists in that I could. I knew the wholesalers were going to be busy because they'd just been to a wholesale fair. So my aim was just to get those wholesalers in. I had their business card, just said, hey, I met you at the Spring Fair. Because they now get your email knowing they've met you, they're more inclined to get back to you quicker because you built that contact, you met them face to face. And so I went through the exhibitors in about a week, I'd say.
Okay. And just top of your head, how many exhibitors did you think you contacted? I know it's a long time ago and you haven't recorded it. Yeah. Was it like 10? Was that maybe 100 or 200?
Yeah, I think I'd say in the region of about 200 wholesalers.
And out of those 200, and again, I know it's still very kind of up in the air, how many do you think said no Amazon? What's the kind of top of your head, how many rejections did you get?
Yeah, I'd say, we got quite a few rejections. I'd say probably out of every 10, between 1 and 2 might have said, we don't sell to Amazon sellers. I've also had some that say they only sell if you've got a brick and mortar store, like a physical store. Each wholesaler will have their own, parameters and criteria for accepting you to their wholesaler.
Wow, interesting. So if I just summarize, because I'm going to go through this. So roughly 200 wholesalers, and you're saying roughly 20% would say no to Amazon straight away.
Yeah.
Question for you, how many out of 10 or how many out of the 200 did you manage to open accounts with?
Yeah, definitely. I'd say out of the 200, we maybe opened accounts with, I'd say around 75, 100-ish. But what you might actually find is that some of those wholesalers aren't suitable for Amazon because of their pricing isn't the greatest. Maybe the products aren't listed on Amazon, which then you can do a bit more work and create your own listing if you want, and there'll be less competition on those. So just because we got accepted to say 75 or so doesn't mean each one was suitable for us. We were suitable for them, but they wasn't suitable for us.
Fantastic. And can I ask, and only if you're happy to share, because there's a bit more insider information, out of 200, how many of them were, should we say, good potential that you're like, actually, we could work with these?
I'd say really out of the ones we got accepted for, the 75, probably, I'd say like 20, 25, because say the 200, you don't necessarily get the price list before you've been accepted. So it's really hard to identify beforehand if they're going to be good until they accept you, approve the account, and then send over their price list or product file.
Wow. And hey, that's really interesting. And I think, thank you. Number one, you've done 200 wholesalers in a week. Number two, 20% of them are saying no Amazon sellers. 10% of them roughly are going to be, half of them you're going to get an account open for. The other half, no, for other reasons, not the Amazon, or maybe just don't even get back to you.
Yeah.
And then 10% are going to be like, actually, we can work with them. So there's some really good numbers and metrics. So thank you, honestly. Thank you so much. Definitely. And if anyone's kind of like doing it, they can compare to that and go, hey, I'm doing really well, or maybe I'm not. Hey, you're successful. So something's working really well.
Definitely.
So go on.
Yeah, I'll just say one other thing. Another thing we're increasingly seeing as well is that some wholesalers are saying, oh, we've already got enough Amazon sellers. So that's just another thing to be cautious about, that something we didn't really face back in the day when we started, but recently that is cropping up a little bit more now.
And I'm guessing that's going to become more and more of a problem as time goes on.
Yeah, exactly. So if you want to get into it, get into it now. Now is the time.
Now is the time. Fantastic. So question for you, if anyone is looking to get started, they've, my God, they've gone to a trade fair or they've got the thing, they've called 200 people. Or did you email them or call them?
Email. I'm all about email, to be fair, yeah.
Wow, interesting. Because it was like get on the phone and do it. What about like building relationships? Oh my God, everyone talks about you need to build a relationship with your wholesalers. How do you do that over email?
Yeah, personally for me, even though I do a lot of things on email, we do still talk to our wholesalers sometimes. Like they might call us saying, we've got this special offer on, are you interested? We're running this discount at the moment. And so initially we got started through email, but now we do have conversations on the telephone like now and then with them.
The relationship's important, but maybe not as much as everyone's kind of shouting and screaming about, but we'll see.
I'll just say from my point of view, I wouldn't really say we've built solid relationships with the wholesalers in terms of calling them regularly. And I'd say that's not prevented us. And I say everyone works in a different way. I'm just personally not really one for calling people or, doing a lot of face-to-face things. I'm more of an online girl. So I'd say for me personally, I've not really found any obstacles in not building a relationship up via telephone. They say there's more than one way to skin a cat, so
there is, and hey, honestly, your evidence there is an importance to building a relationship, but it isn't the only way. You obviously you have built a successful business. Obviously initially contacting through email. So hey, well done. So if anyone's starting, they've done the calls, they've done the contact, they've done the emails, the late nights, the 201 week. Now they've got the suppliers. What do you do next? Are you sitting there every single product going to Amazon and going, no? How does that work? What's the next step?
Yeah, so once you get that email saying you've been accepted, you're going to be filled with excitement. You're really happy. Yes, I've got accepted to a wholesaler. Then you get your product list. So once you've got your price list, it's about checking if there's any suitable products on that price list for yourself. So essentially there's two ways to go about this. You can either do the manual route where you physically check each product, literally going through the list. It'll take a lot of man hour, a lot of time, you might need a lot of VAs, or you could just use software. And essentially the software is going to cut down 90% of your work. Take the barcode, put it into any tool that you're using, and any good tool will also find any bundles or any other listings. Obviously, doing it the automated route with the software, undoubtedly you will miss, one or two listings, but you have to think, is it better to miss one or two listings or spend so many hours going through the list manually? And eventually, to be fair, those listings will probably be found by yourself, especially if it's the same brand, because you'll just see coming up at the bottom, similar listings and whatnot. So our choice of preference is to run it all through the software.
Okay, interesting. So obviously it makes it more efficient as well, so you don't have as much teams.
Yeah, it makes it more efficient. And for me, I'm all about, looking at where our costs are going, not overspending if we don't need to, not getting too much software, not getting too many VAs, and just cutting down our outgoings. So if I can see there's a way that we don't need to spend so much money on a certain thing, then I'll look at a way around it and just try and make those cost savings that way.
Hey, I think probably the opposite of me. I'm like hiring VAs, getting software. See, it does impact margin. So, hey, well done, and a great tip there. For me, going forward into my Amazon business, looking into wholesale, using the software, using that approach is going to be really helpful. So obviously today we're here in your warehouse. And thank you so much. And if anyone wants to know, there's a lot going on. There's a lot, and
it's quite busy.
Yeah, and obviously when I first came in, you had the team going on, so the staff and everything all like blah. So now they've calmed down. But obviously we're not here just today to learn about your journey. We're here to learn about 3 top tips for people wanting to sell on Amazon. What kind of top tips can you share for maybe someone like myself or someone who's looking to get started on wholesale in the UK? What would you recommend?
Definitely. So the first thing is obviously to do wholesale, you need wholesalers. So it's about finding a wholesaler. And you can do this a few ways. You can go to fairs, like I mentioned, I went to the spring fair. You can also, Google is an incredible tool. I'd say 90% of probably what you need to know is on Google. Start looking for wholesalers on Google. You can Google fairs near me, wholesalers near me, or it doesn't even need to be near you to be fair. You can just put wholesalers UK, or you can niche it down and say clothing wholesalers. So I'd say the first important thing is finding wholesalers. Don't get disheartened if a wholesaler says no. Just use it as more motivation to keep going and keep finding those wholesalers.
Quick question for you. I see this all the time on groups. In the UK especially, there's like a website called eSources, like these wholesale lists.
Yeah.
Would you recommend them? What are your thoughts about them?
Yeah. personally, I've never used any lists like that. I think initially we had a look, and when I checked the wholesalers, it wasn't great. So I literally went down the manual route, starting with a blank page, doing my own research, finding out different wholesalers and different niches, and sort of going that way, basically starting from scratch. That's how I personally went about it, doing my own research and using my own thoughts, because I think everyone's got different thoughts which will lead them in a different direction. So if you just get started, start looking and see what you come up with.
Fantastic. Well, hey, thank you. So that's number one, obviously doing your research, looking for your wholesalers, doing your own route, figuring it out. Number two, what would you recommend?
So number two is, once you've found your wholesaler, you've been accepted, it's now time to find your product. And what I would recommend is using some tools that are on the market. So initially, look to see if any existing tools that you subscribe to have a function of going through wholesale lists. If they do, you're not going to need to get another subscription. If they don't, then it's time to look at what is out there. So a popular one that I hear people speak about is Scan Unlimited. You get one free scan, so that's a good way of getting into it, seeing if it works for you, and just testing what's out there. And essentially, filtering through the wholesale list through software, seeing if any results come back, checking the price, also speaking to your wholesalers. If I buy X amount, is there any sort of quantity discounts available? Because that can always be good. And if other sellers are using the same wholesalers as you, that gives you a bit of a competitive edge if you're getting it that little bit cheaper. Because as you know, there is the penny undercutter crew. So anything to, get your way out of that. So that is what I'd say is about finding those products, using the software out there and finding those profitable products.
In your business, obviously you're getting the list, you're running it through software. Do you ever go back, when you found a list which is really good, do you go back manually and review it? Or is that like no, we don't bother, it's too much time?
So personally for us, we don't go back and check it manually. We'll find the good selling products, we'll find the good selling brands. And then after that, what we might do is then, after we've done the software route, we'll then maybe manually check Amazon for the brand, for example, and then just see if there's any sneaky listings we've missed out on. But we don't really go through it manually. To be honest, my VA does sometimes go manually through the website just because of her preference. I don't really tell her to do that, but she does find some good leads doing it that way as well.
Okay, fantastic. So there's an opportunity to follow up there as well.
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. So obviously second one, using software to help find the deals and analyze that. Obviously also negotiating discounts with your wholesaler. If you're looking, that's going to help with the penny underpricing. We know that's obviously sometimes a real problem. So what's top tip number three?
I'd say top tip number three, as you scale, you might start thinking about getting your own unit and looking into that as opposed to a prep centre. And I'd say if you are looking into getting your own unit, costings is super important, because you're moving away from a set fee of a prep centre, like 40, 50 pence, whatever it is, then going over to a unit which has got multiple costs attached to it. You've got the unit itself, you've got any business rates, you've got the boxes you need to pay for, the equipment. So keeping a good rein on what you're spending is super important. And one of the biggest expenses you will have that you won't have if you're using a prep centre is essentially labour. You need people in your unit prepping all day, every day if you can. So I would say, look at how any savings you can make. So for us personally, there's a great government scheme out there at the moment called the Kickstarter scheme. So we essentially signed up to the Kickstarter scheme. We had 3 young people. We've now got 2 because we unfortunately let one go. But essentially we got £30,000 worth of free labour for 0.
Oh.
So if you can imagine, that's going to put us so far ahead of the competition, because we're not paying for our labour, essentially we're getting it free of cost. So definitely look out there. There's always government schemes going on. See what you can take advantage of in your business and essentially bring more profit into your business just by taking advantage of government schemes that are available.
Fantastic. So looking at efficiencies, looking at those, and I know it from reading lots of books. Lots of businesses are formed based off government grants, government schemes. And I know one quite recently, a couple of years ago, was about solar panels, and they were building like solar panel farms up in Scotland because of big schemes. So definitely, hey, well done to you for seeing that. And and I really agree, the costs that we have in our business, and especially, oh my God, if I would come in here with your warehouse, I'd be like buying this, buying that, running the heating all the time. But that's all costs that we incur, and it doesn't help on the bottom line. And at the end of the day, yes, we want to have a great business, but we need to be profitable. We need to make money for the business to survive and obviously grow. So well done, and thank you for sharing that, because it is about always looking at the bottom line and trying to maximize it.
Absolutely.
You told us a bit about 3 top tips. You talked about your journey. It sounds like wholesale is amazing and I should just drop online arbitrage right now. now. Has it ever been bad? Have you ever had any problems in the wholesale game?
Obviously, I think with any business model you go into on Amazon or any other business, you will face some problems. And for us, I'd say one of the problems we're facing right now is 3 of our best listings we can no longer sell on those listings for one reason or another. So we're talking about a lot of revenue and a lot of profit per month. So we've had to adapt a little bit. So I'd say one of the problems is one of our best listings, the manufacturer contacted us. She called me on the telephone, which is something you need to be aware of. If you are doing wholesale, the wholesalers have an obligation to the manufacturers to release your information if anything arises. So we had a telephone call from her. Luckily, I knew it was her because she messaged me on Amazon asking me to take down the listing. I saved her number with the intention of getting back to it in a day or 2. But before I had chance, the phone rang. I saw it was her. I thought, should I answer it? Should I not? What should I do? I thought, forget it, just pick up the phone. So I picked up the phone and she was a really nice lady. And to be fair, I knew she was nice before talking to her because I stalked her on social media, like not her personal pages, but her business pages for a brand. And I could see she was a nice lady. And essentially she said to me, she's got an SDA contract on Amazon. So can I kindly take down the product? I said to her, look, there's no sort of IP claims on it. There's no sort of gatings on it. I'm free to list it. And then she said, we have tried to go through brand registry. It's something we're looking to do right now, but it just hasn't been finalised. And I'm not sure why people can list the product. Sort of said to her, look, I'm going to have to remove X amount of units. That's going to cost me to remove it. And so she kindly offered to help with the removal fees. So that was a big help. And even though I can list the product, if the brand owner's actually not to, personally for me, I'd rather just remove that product from Amazon because it can also lead to other problems, which leads on to the second listing that's been taken down and why. So the second listing, or should I say the second brand, which was multiple listings we can no longer sell, is simply because I didn't get back to her quick enough. So she went to the wholesaler, got my telephone number. Obviously the wholesaler has then looked at my store, seen I'm selling some products that maybe I shouldn't really be selling. And basically that's my supply cut dead for those listings. So not getting back to someone quick enough can lead to further problems. So if you're doing wholesale or any other form of selling, if a brand is asking you to take the product down, maybe consider taking it down before it causes problems or quickly selling that product through before any other problems arise.
My God, hey, and it's an interesting journey. Like you make it wholesale sound amazing, it's the answer, penny underpricing, but no, it isn't. It's all roses. There are problems, and hey, you talked about like getting on top of things quite quickly and the impact that's had. Question for you, obviously, it's like, oh my God, I've lost my 3 top lines. Are you going to quit wholesale now? Are you going to do it all, or are you going to keep going?
Well, to be honest, for me, that's just motivation to keep going because if we found these great products, look how many thousands of products are out there. What I would say it has taught me is maybe to diversify a little bit. I've never been one to have like millions of listings, millions of brands, but this has taught me a valuable lesson that it is important to diversify. Don't just stick to one thing because you see it's working. You need to cover all bases in case one thing goes down. So I definitely say, diversify, don't stick to one brand, one niche. Cover bases just in case if one listing, 2, or in my case 3 goes down, you'll have a backup.
No, I certainly understand. And hey, thank you for sharing that because it's not all roses. There are problems.
Definitely.
And I think I love the fact that you go, they called me and then the wholesaler looked at me and had a look at the other listings and then saw that I was selling some things maybe I shouldn't. And we all know it's like, if you don't ask, you don't get into a problem, so maybe I'm not sure to do it. So keeping stum or not drawing attention to yourself is obviously helpful, and obviously you had attention drawn to yourself.
Absolutely.
So Emma, thank you so much obviously for taking time out to have this interview with me, obviously to share, so thank you so much. If anyone wants to get in contact with you and find out more, how can they do it? How can they get in contact?
Yeah, if anyone wants to try and find me, they can look for my YouTube channel, just Emma Louise Hamilton, or the Amazon Dream will come up, or you can drop me an email, which is emmalouisehamilton@outlook.com.
Fantastic. And if you want to know, I'll drop that all down below. So check out the links down below and you can get hold of Emma that way. Emma, thank you so much. I'm going to leave you to get back and obviously carry on prepping, doing everything you need to do. It's been a real pleasure. And hopefully next year I can come back and obviously hear updates on how the Amazon Dream is going.
Amazing. It's been amazing having you, and thanks for coming down to sunny Birmingham to see me.
Definitely not sunny. Thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you.